hang on.
Yeah. The nurseries, the argument for the social and practical side of those nurseries is well won. That's why the council have moved it off that ground to the safe ground of the economic argument. We can't afford it. We're saving money. Right? Now, where it's false is, we're involved in the binman's dispute, trying to reduce the binman from 18,000 to 15,000 a year, which is a good idea, I thought, right? For economic measures again. But they spent £16 million to try and defeat the binman. The nurseries cost £200,000 to keep open. That's where the economic of it is false, and it must be called out, and that's where your strength is. Call out this false economic argument. Don't go down the social side of it. Don't go down the poor children suffering. The hard-nosed buggers, they won't listen to that. It's this false economic argument you have to challenge. Thank you.
I just want to make a point that the deficit that the council are claiming that these nurseries has is about £500,000, and if you look at the overall council budget, it's like 0.0 something percent. It's like it's a tiny amount of the overall council budget.
Bob?
Well, actually, this point's been made over there, but I could mention that Labour just been re-elected with 2/3 of the seats on the council in Birmingham on a manifesto which says a relaunch of municipal socialism. Does this make you feel more confident?
Not really. Not really.
Not really, but we can hope.
Mary?
I think it's important, it's not just about the economic thing that you mentioned about nurseries. It's educationally proven that children who have a nursery background, they're well in advance when they go to school, actual school. I think it's really important for all children to have a nursery place.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, definitely. And again, you just have to go out to these nurseries and speak to the parents, the children, what it actually means to them. You know, the huge difference it makes to their lives.
Excuse me, I've got a bit sick. Microphone? Yeah, my name is John Bliss and I'm a retired member of Unite. But on behalf of Birmingham Against the Clots, I attended to these public consult. Well, not attended one because I couldn't go to it, but I gave a lot of leaflets out to the manager, who was absolutely thrilled to bits. The people were on their side, you know. But I did go to the one in Small Heath, I think Heather Road, you know. And the officer was putting his case that, well, you know, we spent £700,000 more, you know, they're running at a £700,000 deficit. And what they were looking for was, she didn't quite say that they were actually wanting to close them completely. I was on about learning about merging them, you know. And then she made references to the costs of maintenance. Now, the two by me, actually, which are, one is in Smalley, one is in Yardley, the one in Heather Road is in a very old Victorian school, you know, ramshackle building, miles of corridors, hundreds of light bulbs everywhere, you know. The one in the Oaklands is low level, very efficient, you know, and I can understand that it's when she was inferring about this to want to merge them, and I'm thinking, hang on a bit, you know, if you merge these nurseries, what about the parents who've now got to go about another 2 miles, you know, up the road, or, you know, and they can only hold about 60 children each, and they're not, you know, they're not particularly big, you know. The one in Heather Road was in a great big massive Victorian building, but then she said, well, I know this questionnaire, and on the questionnaire was, would you like to buy a nursery? You know, actually, and I, you know, asked a few pertinent questions, and there was somebody there from the GMB union as well, you know, who, you know, she was sort of in defence of the workers, which is understandable. But the questionnaire said, do you want to buy a nursery? You know, and they put your hand up there and say, I'll buy a nursery, you know, how much money are we going to make out of it, type of philosophy, you know. But the reality is, you can't just suddenly step in because you have to have protection, children's protection. But the reality is that what I think they really want to do is privatise them. That's the strategy. Because the children's centre, which is at the top of the Borsley Green, is now run by Bernardo's, you know, because I went there by mistake. Because I thought that was the place, and I'd cause a right ruckus in there. When I thought you were going to get closed down, and she said, "Oh, we've only just been took over by Bernardo's," and then I realised. But that's the plan. That's what they want to do. They want to privatise them. So you'll have Birmingham City Council very soon. Well, Birmingham City Council PLC, and all these councillors will do will be doshing out contracts to private contractors. That's what the plan is. That's what they really want to do. They want to privatise them rather than close them. They want to privatise them off.
Well done.
Well, I think, human rights abuses, wherever they happen, they are very important to, the trade union movement. Saima has mentioned something about Kashmir. Every year a report is produced by the Foreign Office about human rights abuses in different countries. There used to be a paragraph on Kashmir, but that has been taken out this year. The reason is because Indian Prime Minister was here and they have done a trade deal with him. They're going to sell him arms over worth £1 billion, and there's nothing mentioned about human rights abuses in Kashmir. So, you got to ask this question. There's so much poverty in India. People are, go without food. Millions and millions of people. Why does India need to buy, bombs and gunship and helicopters from Britain? Why does Britain have to sell, these arms to India when India can't feed its poor people? And I think this is a very important issue for us to raise, with our government. The government that we have here today ain't bother. It's not bother about human rights. Yes, they can pick and choose. Pick and choose wherever they want to attack some country. They talk about human rights abuses, but, they, on some countries they just, blind eye, they don't say nothing. So I think Kashmir is important because it has a historical link with British past, and there's a big Kashmiri community living in Britain, and we are trying to raise this issue.
I'll make this the last question. There'll be plenty of opportunity after the music. We are running tight on schedule now.
Asif Mohammed, Unite West Midlands Political Committee. Can I just say firstly, the Save Our Nurseries campaign is absolutely vital to prevent the kind of neoliberalisation of public services. And for Labour moderates who are so adept at quoting Clement Attlee and saying they're close-one socialists, well, I've got an Attlee quote for them, and that's: charity is a dead, cold thing given by the benefactors of the rich to the poor, in order to guilt trip them and make it seem as if the rich are doing something good for the poor, whereas really what we do need is public provision of public services. And that's what's happening when they get in charities like Bernardo's, because they want to erase the social right that the working class will want to have good public services. And I myself am testament to that. I go to one of the best universities in the world. I go to the University of Birmingham, and I'm currently doing my final year in law there. My dad was actually literate. He was from Kashmir, like comrades here. He was on benefits after he became disabled after a industrial accident in the Black Country. But none of that stopped me from pursuing my dreams, because I went to a fantastic nursery, I went to a fantastic infant school, I went to a fantastic primary school, and these cuts will fundamentally write off an entire generation of Birmingham's young people. And these councillors in Birmingham Council House that call themselves Labour councillors are no such thing. In reality, they're sycophants of capital, because when it comes to the Commonwealth Games, a vanity project to gentrify parts of our city, and we saw that with the Olympic Village in London, and we'll see that in a couple of years in Perry Bowl, where I live. When it comes to HS2, another vanity project, so capital can come from London to Birmingham in 40 minutes. And the metro line, again, so we can ship in labour from Wolverhampton to service capital on Snow Hill and so forth. All these things have been done in the interest of capital, and nothing has been done in the interest of the public, of working class people who build the wealth of this city and get, thrown on the scrap heap every single year. Every 4 years now, when Labour councillors come to us and say, we'll do all these great and wonderful things and then forget about us when they get into power. So thank you, comrades.
Thank you. Right, we will now have music by Tim Martin, and afterwards we'll